Here's my new, to me, David Brown 990 tractor. Has a loader, 3-point arms, which do not work. Has about 53 horsepower at the PTO. We have a few issues we're going to be taking a look at. First of all, the alternator is not charging. We're going to need a new belt because this one is way too loose. And we have an issue where when it sits or when you're using it, either one, all the power steering fluid disappears. And according to the previous owner, it's ending up in the oil pan in the bottom of the tractor. So the only way that I see oil able to get into the engine is through the timing cover up here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the alternator off. I got a new one coming in the mail. This is a Chevy alternator from the 1970s, so I ordered another one. It's a 3-wire, so we're going to be wiring that up to charge properly. And we're going to pull off the power steering pump and see if we can rebuild that. Can you guys see that? So this is the oil seal, and as you can see, it's cracked. So I'm hoping that this is my issue. These O-rings here are also very worn out. So I'm going to just replace everything since I bought the whole kit to rebuild it. Alright, finally got the power steering pump apart. This is a Plessy Dynamics pump made in England. I found a parts kit for it on Amazon. I think it was only like 27 bucks. But it looks so far so good. This is the new O-ring, and that's the old crushed O-ring. And I already put in the new seal with a C-clip. As you can see, we got our gears on the inside, and then we got 2 seals here, 2 seals here that are bigger, and then our oil seal there. Those are the main ones. There's probably other seals, but I'm not going to go too crazy with rebuilding all the valves and everything. So the issue that we're having is this isn't really lined up for some reason, and I'm having a whole deal of trouble trying to get this fitting here to thread in. Alright, so I got the wrong size belt again from Napa. This one's a little bit too long, so I'm gonna have to put the alternator on another day. Kind of switch gears now to alternator wiring. So this tractor had a charging issue before. The alternator was super worn out and the bearings sounded bad, so I have my new alternator ready to go in once I have the new belt. But just looking into some of the ignition wiring at the moment. So there's my key switch there. That brown wire on the lower right, that is 12 volt power direct from the battery. I tested that and we're getting the proper voltage. Currently I have the connector off on that one there, right there. It's a little bit rusty, and when I turn the key to ignition on, I only get 6.2 volts. That should be 12. So I may have a bad ignition switch, but I'm just trying to clean up the contacts first to rule out a corroded connection. Alright, we're back out here today working on the David Brown 990. Haven't really been filming much. We got our alternator installed with a new belt from Napa. I've been fighting this issue right here. I've finally got this brass nut to thread in. If you guys are doing this, be very careful that you don't strip this out. You want to attach this side before you attach the other side to the pump. I stripped out this nut partially and I took it to a hydraulic shop. No one has these fittings anywhere, even online or anything, so be very careful because this brass is soft. The guy at the shop ended up helping me just rethread a nut on the end of it, which cleaned up the brass threads, and I was able to hold pressure up while I rotated this nut with my other hand with a wrench, and I got that in there seated pretty tight. It's just loose enough to where I can still move it. So I'm going to try to reinstall the pump now, and then I need to get some transmission fluid, and we should be all set with the power steering system. Here's the reservoir here. Definitely take this off when you're doing this job, because to get everything to line up with these mounting studs, it ends up torquing everything over, which is why I ended up stripping it out in the first place. So just a word of advice, just be very careful when you're working on this. Okay, we got the pump back in place. We got the bolts just kind of finger tight. We're letting the RTV set up on it. I was able to get this lower connection put on there, and this one is snugged down as well, which is awesome. Same with our high pressure line. We do have one line left, which is that one there, and then it comes up alongside this one to the reservoir. So we're going to hold off on that for right now. This is our tachometer port on the side of the motor, and what we're going to do is install the cable for the tachometer. So I got the dash opened up. Let's send the new wire down there and get that hooked up. So this is the piston here, the cylinder for the bucket tilt. This pin really isn't ideal. So what I did is I went to Tractor Supply and I got a Cat 2 to 3 adapter and a hitch pin. My plan is I'm going to put this through so that it engages both of these tabs, and then I have this adapter here to help center it. So let's get that switched out. Alright, today we're back out here working on the David Brown. Today we are punching in some new roll pins into the pins that hold the loader on, which are pretty rusty, but I'm pulling them out, greasing them, and then putting them back in. And this one had a broken roll pin, so let's find this roll pin first of all, and let's throw a new pin in there. There we go. Alright, let's throw it in the tractor, grease it up. All the pins are totally greased up, and let's go on to the next thing. A little bit of crud in the bottom, a little bit of crud around the filter, but not too bad. Let's swap out these gaskets here and get the new one in. flowing diesel. Close this one off. Now we are primed up to the injection pump. I noticed this hydraulic line is pretty shitty and cracked. These ends here look really old also compared to the new style. This one's obviously been replaced. This one here is really bad as well. Same with this one. So I think we're definitely gonna try to pull some of these off and get some new hoses made up at Napa. So first I got this end off, and now I'm gonna pull this end off. Back out working on the David Brown. My local Napa had to order some JIC fittings, which that's what these look like. These are JIC for the loader. So I had them make me up a new hose. The other one was all cracked up, so this way I don't have to worry about that. So let's get that put on. Alright, I didn't end up filming it, but I got the line on over there, and I got the two lines for the rear remotes all attached. So that went pretty well. The worst one on it is this one here. It has a little bit of weather cracking, but I think we're just going to run that because it's probably got like another 5 years of life left in it. Alright, I can't really get this to show up on video, but I got my camera up inside here. I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's a pretty big crack. And I think before I put my tires back on, probably not a bad idea to try to slide that out, get a good weld on it, and slide it back in. I don't know if you can see that, but it is bent up a little bit. And I might try to bend it back a little bit straighter, but I don't want to risk weakening it any further. So I'm going to try to pull these bolts out. I was using the camera to see if there's any nut on the back, but I think what happened is this just shifted a little bit, and it's just catching on the threads. There's no nuts on either of these. So these should come right out, and that way I can slide it a little bit back and get some access to weld up that crack. You guys can see right there, actually it's cracked right there as well, so we should probably do something about this. There we go. Got one out. Right there, threads are wider, so it was just hanging up. Alright, a little update on the David Brown. We used the excavator and a strap to pull the hub out, and I don't think I would have been able to do it with anything else. This is super rusted. I'm going to clean all this up with a wire wheel, and this is the crack here on one side. If we look at the other side, it's actually all cracked apart, even back there. I brought it down to my local machine shop, and they have a 20-ton press. It was just enough. He said he maxed the press out, heated it up, maxed it out, straightened it out, and then welded and ground down the weld also. I think it looks pretty good, and I'm confident running that to where it won't feel like it's going to fall off. Alright, we're back out here a couple days later. This axle turned out really good. Ended up shifting in one set of bolts, so the ones that are broken off are right in here. Using these two with new bolts from Tractor Supply. Changed out the ball joints on the steering ram because they were super worn out. Today, or tonight, we're working on the shifter boots. This one is torn. This other one over here is pretty badly torn as well. So these knobs, I believe, twist off, but I don't want to put a lot of force into this and risk breaking something. So what I'm doing is I got a 7/16. You know, I already loosened them, but I'm going to pull these out, and then we're going to put this in the vise. There we go. Came right off. Perfect. Here's the old cracked rubber boot. Get that off of there. Just looking at this, we have a lot of water and moisture in there, so it's really good we're changing this out. Alright, there we go. Let's get this back on the tractor. Alright, now that we got the high-low shifter done, we're going to move on to the regular gear shift. So basically it's just the exact same process as what I just did, so we'll be back with you in a minute. Alright, tonight we got our manual out. We're going to be changing the engine oil, the filter, as well as removing the engine oil pump. So we're going to be pulling the pan off. So we got the oil draining out. Once that's drained, we're going to go around and remove the oil pan and take care of that first. Alright, we're under the David Brown. Got the oil pan off finally, along with the half gallon of RTV that was holding it on. That was fun. So now that is the oil pump screen. We're going to pull that off and clean it out and put it back on. And then we're going to clean the mating surface to the block as well as on the oil pan. Get that resealed up and put back on. Alright, here's the oil pan all cleaned up. There was a little bit of sludge and metal in the bottom, so I got it all cleaned out. Pretty neat. It's got these compartments here, so if anything drops into the bottom, it's got to fit through this little tiny hole in the bottom in order to get across. Alright, now we're moving on to the oil filter. Sorry, it's kind of hard to see. But there it is on the side of the block. Here it is. This is the cartridge here. It says don't use a cloth because there's a little bypass valve in there, so you don't want to get that clogged with lint. So here's this if you want to take a look at the manual. 10 foot-pounds of torque when you put it back on. Definitely don't want to over torque it. Hey, come on, man. Okay, take two. We're back out here again. That's all the new oil that I poured in. Unfortunately, I didn't use enough RTV, so it was leaking out of every side of the pan. So I pulled that off, resealed it last night, and a bunch of crap fell in there. So now we're going to filter it through an old sock back into the motor. So here we go. Tonight we're doing the transmission or the hydraulic fluid change, and I'm really glad I did. I got the rear bolt out. I dropped the filter pan there. The filter ended up just falling out with it. The rubber O-ring is hard. Luckily I have another filter to go in. But yeah, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is just a nasty milkshake. Yeah, the bottom, basically this whole amount here was all water. That's all water. Oh man, that's awful. Alright, I got the lower pan cleaned up pretty good. That's the old filter. It's just covered in sludge. And here is the screen with the pressure relief spring in there. I'm gonna see if I can get this clean without taking it apart, but I don't really think it does come apart. I think it just allows you to open up this spring. But I got some gasoline. I think some gas will just wash this up and get it all clean. Alright, sorry I haven't really been filming. It's just been kind of boring, just prepping parts. I did have a gasket for this, so I put RTV on the bottom, stuck it on, RTV on the top of the gasket. And here is the old screen with the magnet up inside, cleaned out, stuck into the bottom. We got this new filter here, and basically it just kind of seats in here, something like that. I don't know, I'm not really sure. I test fitted this up, and it doesn't really want to slide on. The old one doesn't either, but we're just gonna bolt that up. So here we go. I just topped off the hydraulic fluid. Check the level here. We're about 2/3 of the way up, and I did start it so it filled up the system, and I ran the loader up and down a couple times to get it mixed together. Now what we're working on, we're checking the final drive oil. I was gonna change them, but it looks halfway decent. I don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, so I'm just topping off both sides. And we're getting pretty close to testing this out, so let's get this done. And here's the right-hand side final drive. I don't know if you guys can see that, but the oil's pretty decent color. Probably does need to be changed, but I'm just gonna run it for now and put the plug back in because that is right to where it needs to be. The other side took about half of a quart, and for this I'm using 85 W140. I just popped off this ball joint and lengthened it there, which will basically get the toe right on the tractor. So that's a little bit angled in, that's a little bit angled out. Probably hard to tell right now, but it was towed out pretty bad before, so now we're probably just about zero, maybe a hair toe in, which I've heard is kind of what you want to run on these tractors. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all this torque back down. I gotta hit a couple grease points in the back end, and then I think we're ready to test it. Alright, time to bring the tractor over to the farm. Let's bring it on over and hook up the brush hog. Got her loaded up. Just touching the helper springs. Barely. I think I got the tongue weight pretty good. And this is a 14K trailer. And brush hog hanging off a little bit, but it's fine. And then I got the bucket right up in there. Picked up some soft shackles with some hooks on them. And I think for the back, I'm going to move those D-rings back to here, and then I'm going to go to the drawbar hitch underneath the chassis there, and then same thing on the other side. Move that one back to there, tie that one in, and we should be good. This trailer is awesome. Full width ramp. Wasn't sketchy at all. I did just block these because I'm on a little bit of a hill and I didn't want to roll away and die. Alright, we're hooked up. This guard kind of sucks. This is the field we were just mowing. Altogether, it's about 5 acres. The David Brown did a great job. Got it done in about 40 minutes or so. It wasn't super tall. I probably mowed it maybe a month ago. So this was nothing for it. Another field that I did off camera, the weeds were 8 feet tall, and it also did excellent. This field here I mowed in third gear. I was able to power through it, and the 6-foot brush hog also did excellent. Huge difference with a 6-foot brush hog over the 4-foot on our Ford 8N tractor. We're still going to be keeping that around. Here's a few clips from mowing with it the previous week. Basically, it's good for getting in tight around obstacles. It's a 3-point brush hog, so you can lift it up a little bit easier if you end up running into trouble. It's great for backing up into trees and stuff, trimming around the field edges and whatnot, around the orchards. So we'll definitely end up keeping it around, but obviously it has its limitations. It has about 12 PTO horsepower versus the David Brown has about 50, 55 or so. So just a huge upgrade for us with keeping up on the weeds that are everywhere up here. You know, everything grows so fast. This is up in Vermont. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed following along. It's been a long process getting this done. I bought the tractor in March of 2025. Didn't end up working on it till about May, and just pieced away at it here and there after work just to get it done. So if you liked it, I'd appreciate a like, and if you want to see more of this, let me know down in the comments, and thanks for watching.